Okay, I want to start today with a riddle, or maybe it's more of a business paradox. I want you to picture a scenario. You are the CEO of a massive operation, let's say a major international convention center.
Okay.
You get your year-end report, you crack open the spreadsheet, and the first thing you see is, well, it's a giant red flag. Your volume is down.
Which is usually where the panic sets in.
Yeah.
In the events world, volume is like the holy grail.
Exactly. You hosted fewer total events than you did at your peak.
Yeah.
Statistically speaking, the hallways were just emptier, fewer lanyards being printed.
Right.
But then you flip to the financial summary, and you realize you didn't just break even. You made millions of dollars more in economic profit.
Okay.
$43 million more than the previous year, to be exact.
It defies the basic laws of retail, doesn't it? Selling less, making more. It sounds like an accounting error. Or a Ponzi scheme.
It really does.
Yeah.
But it is neither. It is exactly what happened in Montreal. We are looking at the dossier Le Palais de Congrès, the annual report for the Montreal Convention Center for the 2025 fiscal year. And I have to say, when I opened this PDF, I expected spreadsheets about, catering costs, chair rentals, maybe some complaints about the HVAC system.
And instead, you found a geopolitical thriller.
I really did.
Yeah.
This report is accidentally one of the most interesting windows into the global economy I've seen in a while. It connects artificial intelligence, the post-pandemic pivot, and, this is the crazy part, that we really need to dig into American political instability.
It is a fascinating document because it shows how interconnected these things are. So the mission for this deep dive is really to unpack the strategy they're calling value over volume.
Right.
We're going to look at how a convention center in Quebec is becoming a barometer for stability in North America, and why 2025 might be looked back on as the year the Quebec economy pulled off a massive strategic pivot.
So let's lay out the raw data first, because the jump is staggering.
Yeah.
We're talking about a total economic injection of $438 million generated by the Palais.
Right. And just to contextualize that for you, that is a $43 million jump compared to 2024. That is massive growth year over year.
And as you said in the intro, they did this with fewer events.
Fewer events.
Which brings us back to the core business paradox here. How does that math work? I mean, did they just start charging $20 for a bottle of water? Or doubling the price of Wi-Fi?
Thankfully, no. This is a classic case of what business strategists call yield management, but, applied to tourism. For decades, the convention industry operated on a heads-in-beds model.
Heads in beds. I love industry jargon. It's so blunt.
It is. The goal was simply volume. Fill the hall, get the bodies in the door. It didn't matter if it was a local cat show, a comic book swap meet, or a global summit. A body is a body, and a hotel room booked is a hotel room booked.
Sure.
But the Palais de Congrès has shifted to a value-added strategy. They realized that in a knowledge economy, not all tourists are created equal.
That sounds a little elitist, doesn't it? We only want the good tourists.
It sounds that way, but think about the economics of it. If you host a regional hobbyist show, those attendees might drive in from the suburbs for the day. They bring a packed lunch, maybe they buy a sandwich at the concession stand, and then they drive home.
Okay.
Their economic footprint is shallow. It doesn't ripple out into the city.
Right. But if you host a global summit for neurosurgeons.
Exactly. Now you're talking about a completely different demographic. They are flying business class into YUL. They are staying at the Ritz or the Four Seasons or the Honey Rose. They are packing a sandwich. They are taking clients out for 3-course dinners in Old Montreal. They are extending their stay to see the city.
So they are prioritizing the right bodies over just any bodies.
Precisely. And the report is very specific about which sectors are driving this $438 million figure. It isn't random. It is heavily weighted toward life sciences and artificial intelligence.
I saw that Stat Life Sciences accounted for 5 of the year's 12 largest conventions. That is a huge concentration.
It is. And this introduces a concept the report leans on heavily. Intellectual tourism.
Intellectual tourism. I love that term. It sounds like something you'd put on a LinkedIn profile. I'm not a tourist, I'm an intellectual traveler. But practically speaking, how is that different from regular business travel?
So regular business travel is transactional. You go to a city, you sit in a windowless conference room, you drink the bad coffee, and you leave.
We've all been there.
Intellectual tourism implies that the delegate is coming to extract value from the local ecosystem. If you're an AI researcher coming to Montreal for a conference, you aren't just looking at the inside of the Palais.
No, you're trying to visit Mila.
You're likely trying to visit Mila, the famous AI institute founded by Yoshua Bengio. You're trying to meet with professors at McGill or the University of Montreal.
So the convention center stops being just a landlord renting out space. It starts being a connector, the front door to the city's brain trust.
That's the perfect way to put it. Look at the All-In 2025 event mentioned in the documents. That brought in over 4,000 global decision makers in AI.
4,000.
Or the International Joint Conferences on Artificial Intelligence, which had another 3,000 delegates. These are people shaping the future of humanity. And they are doing it in Montreal because the city itself is the draw, not just the venue.
It's interesting because it reframes the whole post-pandemic recovery. We spent so much time asking, when will things go back to normal? But this data suggests that normal was the wrong goal. If they had just tried to get back to hosting 1 million tiny, low-yield events, they probably wouldn't have hit these profit numbers.
Volume is vanity. Value is sanity. That seems to be the lesson here. And here is where we get to the really surprising, almost sensitive part of the report.
Right.
A lot of the success isn't just about what Montreal is doing right. It's about what is happening south of the border.
Yes. The communicating vessels effect. This is the part that really grabbed me.
It's a vivid image, isn't it?
It is. For anyone who skipped high school physics, the idea is that liquid flows between connected containers to find a level. If you push down on one side, the other side rises. But in this case, the report is suggesting that as pressure rises in the United States, the benefits spill over directly into Montreal.
It is a polite, diplomatic way of saying that Montreal is capitalizing on American instability. The report is actually quite candid about this. It explicitly identifies drivers causing organizations to look north: political instability, social polarization, trade tensions, and visa anxieties.
I feel like we need to double-click on that visa anxiety piece. We hear about it in the news, but why does that matter so much to a conference organizer?
Think about the logistics of a global scientific conference. Your keynote speaker might be a leading expert from the Middle East or China or Africa. You have a panel of researchers coming from Europe and South America. If there is even a 20% chance that your keynote speaker gets denied a visa to enter the U.S. because of shifting policies or gets stuck in administrative limbo for 6 months, you don't have a conference.
You have a disaster. You have an empty stage and very angry ticket holders.
Exactly. The U.S. has become a riskier bet for international organizers. It introduces friction. There's the threat of tariffs, which messes up budget planning for exhibitors. There's the feel that policies might change overnight via executive order.
So Montreal has emerged as this neutral zone.
The Switzerland of North American conventions.
In a way, yeah. It offers North American access, same time zone, integrated economy, easy flights, but without the geopolitical baggage. The evidence in the report is striking. It notes that Canadian passenger travel to the U.S. dropped by nearly 20% in 2025.
That is a massive drop. That's not just statistical noise. That's a behavioral shift.
It is. And that trend is mirrored by international delegates. They are preferring Canadian access over U.S. border crossings. It's simply less stressful.
Why risk a 4-hour interrogation or a rejected visa when you can fly into Montreal?
There was one example in the report that I thought was hilarious, but also really telling.
Yeah.
The Montreal Comic-Con.
Oh, right. The Comic-Con example.
Usually we think of Comic-Con as this fun, local pop culture fest. People dressing up as Spider-Man, buying comic books. But the report says that in 2025, even though it's a local event, it attracted headliners and exhibitors who specifically bypassed the American convention circuit.
Because of trade conflicts and uncertainty.
Imagine that conversation. You're a vendor selling rare collectibles, or maybe a massive entertainment company, and you decide, you know what? The U.S. market is too unpredictable right now. I'm going to Montreal instead.
Oh.
That is a wild shift in dynamic.
It shows that this instability isn't just affecting high-level diplomatic summits or scientific gatherings. It's affecting the entertainment industry, the commercial sectors.
For sure.
When you introduce friction into a system, whether that's border friction or social friction, business looks for the path of least resistance. Right now, that path leads to Montreal.
And the report makes it clear this isn't just a one-off for 2025. It's not like these organizations just had a bad year and panic-booked Montreal. This is a solidified trend for 2026.
That's what they are calling the safe haven strategy. The Palais isn't just catching spillover anymore. They are actively marketing themselves as the stable alternative.
Right.
The pipeline for 2026 is impressive, specifically because of the types of organizations moving their events.
I have the list here. Let's run through a few of these because these are heavy hitters. These are not small gatherings. First up, July 2026, The American Society of Retina Specialists.
That's 2,500 delegates. Doctors, researchers, extremely high value. These are people at the top of their field.
Then in October 2026, the American Society of Human Genetics.
That is a giant in the sector. We are talking about 4,600 delegates. Now, pause on that for a second. Genetics.
Yeah.
This is one of the fastest moving, most ethically complex fields in science. The fact that they're choosing Montreal over a U.S. hub speaks volumes about the need for a reliable venue where international collaboration won't be hindered by politics or visa issues.
They need to guarantee access.
They need to ensure every scientist can get to the microphone regardless of where their passport is from.
And then there's the IE Power and Energy Society. 3,500 experts focusing on clean energy.
Now, that one is particularly interesting. Think about the energy debates happening in the U.S. right now. Policy uncertainty, shifting regulations on renewables versus fossil fuels, debates about the grid.
Total chaos sometimes.
The report implies that these experts are seeking stability amidst that U.S. energy policy uncertainty. They need a place where they can discuss the science of the grid without looking over their shoulder at the latest election poll or lobbying effort.
It really paints a picture of Montreal poaching business from cities that are usually the heavyweights. We're talking about Boston, Chicago, San Francisco. These are the cities losing out.
It does. And Montreal has been named the top destination for International Association events in North America for the 9th consecutive year. But previously, that title felt a bit nice to have. A fun fact for a tourism brochure.
Right.
Now it feels strategic. They are positioning themselves as a stable extension of the North American ecosystem.
It's like their pitches, come to Montreal. It's North America, but without the drama.
Pretty much. And for an association planner who is risking millions of dollars on an event, no drama is the strongest selling point you can have.
So we have the money, the $438 million. We have the geopolitical strategy. But the report also spends a good chunk of time talking about the building itself. And not just the architecture, but the soul of the building.
That's a good way to put it. We often think of convention centers as these sterile concrete boxes that sit empty half the time, completely disconnected from the neighborhood around them, just giant cavernous halls.
Yeah.
But the Palais is trying to integrate into the social fabric of the city.
They have a green roof, right. And I don't mean just a patch of grass where the employees go to smoke.
No, it's significant. A 35,000 square foot green roof dedicated to urban agriculture. To visualize that, that is nearly an acre of farmland on top of a building in downtown Montreal.
Wow.
It's become a global model for carbon-neutral convention centers. They are actually growing food up there.
That is 35,000 square feet. That's bigger than most people's entire apartment buildings. That's bigger than my neighborhood block.
It is huge, and it connects to their community impact. They aren't just growing tomatoes for show or for the VIP lounge garnishes. They have a collaboration with the Movement to End Homelessness in Montreal, and they redistribute surplus food to La Maison du Père.
That is something I really respect. Because usually, after a massive banquet for 4,000 geneticists, you imagine tons of food just getting tossed in a dumpster. It feels so wasteful.
Exactly. And in a city where food insecurity is a real issue, bridging that gap between the excess of a convention and the needs of the community is vital. It changes the perception of the convention center from an ivory tower for rich foreigners to a functioning part of the local ecosystem.
It makes the locals actually care about the building.
Right. And I imagine this ties back to the financials, too. Being efficient with waste usually helps the bottom line.
It does. The report highlights a significant financial turnaround. And this is the part that makes the accountants smile. The corporation managed to reduce its anticipated deficit from $6.2 million down to just $1.5 million in the 2024-2025 fiscal year.
That is a massive reduction. They almost wiped out the deficit.
And it was driven by a 14.75% increase in self-generated revenue. So they are making more money on their own, relying less on government subsidies, and doing it while being more socially responsible.
It's a rare win-win-win scenario. Usually sustainability costs money, but here they seem to have integrated it into the business model.
It really seems like they're firing on all cylinders. But I want to circle back to something you said earlier about intellectual tourism, because it feels like this is the future for cities like Montreal. We aren't going to compete on beaches. Let's be real, it's February right now. We aren't going to compete on being the biggest financial hub that's New York. So we compete on brains.
That is the bet. And it's a smart one. In a knowledge economy, the most valuable commodity is the exchange of ideas. If you can be the place where that exchange happens most easily, where the visa process is smooth, where the streets are safe, where the universities are top tier, you win. You become the global salon.
It's fascinating that the product they are selling isn't really the convention hall rental. The product is the environment.
Precisely. The convention center is just the container. It's the box. The product is the stability and the intellectual density of Montreal. When the American Society of Human Genetics books Montreal, they aren't buying square footage. They're buying a risk-free environment for scientific discourse.
And clearly, business is booming. $438 million in economic impact is nothing to sneeze at.
And remember, that money circulates. It pays wages in hotels. It supports local restaurants. It funds the transit system. When we talk about economic injection, it sounds abstract, but that is real cash flowing into the pockets of Montrealers.
Right.
It's the waitress at the diner getting better tips. It's the taxi driver getting more fares.
Yeah. It's funny, when I started reading this report, I expected it to be dry. I was ready to skim it. But it's actually a story about adaptability. The world changed, COVID happened, U.S. politics got crazy, and instead of complaining, the Palais de Congrès said, okay, how do we use this?
Adaptability is the defining trait here. They identified the communicating vessels phenomenon, and they didn't just watch it happen, they leaned into it. They actively courted those organizations that were feeling shaky about the U.S. That is aggressive, smart strategy.
It makes you wonder what happens if things settle down in the U.S., though.
That is the million-dollar question, or perhaps the $438 million question. If the U.S. stabilizes, does the safe haven strategy lose its steam?
Or has Montreal already proven itself by then?
I tend to think the latter. Once you get a massive organization like the IEE or the retina specialists to come and have a great experience, they are more likely to return. You break the inertia of, we always go to Chicago. Once they see the value of the intellectual tourism model, connecting with Mila, connecting with the universities, that value proposition remains even if U.S. politics calms down.
That's a good point. You come for the safety, you stay for the science.
Exactly. And the food. Let's be honest, the bagels help.
The bagels always help. Never underestimate the power of a sesame bagel. So let's recap what we've unpacked today. We started with a paradox. Fewer events, but way more profit.
Right.
The answer was a shift to intellectual tourism, focusing on high-yield sectors like life sciences and AI.
We saw how the communicating vessels effect is real. Political and social instability in the U.S. is actively pushing business north, turning Montreal into a neutral zone for international associations.
We looked at the pipeline for 2026, seeing massive U.S. organizations relocating to Montreal to avoid risk, confirming this isn't just a one-year blip, but a sustained trend.
And we saw that this economic engine is also trying to be a social engine with sustainable practices like that massive green roof and community support that go beyond just balancing the books.
It is a pretty incredible turnaround story. From a predicted $6 million deficit to almost breaking even, all while navigating a chaotic global landscape.
It really is. It's a masterclass in strategic positioning.
So here's where I want to leave you, the listener.
Yeah.
We've talked about how smart this strategy is, but there is a slightly provocative thought lingering here.
What's that?
We are celebrating Montreal's success, and rightfully so. But a significant chunk of that success is built on the failures or the instability of our neighbors. It turns out political stability is now a commodifiable asset for a city. So the question is, how much of Montreal's future economic growth will depend not on what it does right, but on what its neighbors continue to do wrong?
That is a thought that will keep city planners up at night.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you on the next one.